Hello, everyone. This is Mike, and this is my brother Mark, and we're going to talk about the tribe of Ephraim in particular. It's all about, they're going to be about the tribe of Ephraim, which is one of the sons of Joseph. Joseph had two sons. Ephraim was actually the second born, but given the birthright when Jacob crossed the hands and he gave it to Ephraim, because he said Ephraim would be greater than Manasseh. And it said the crown would come through Ephraim. And that's a later prophecy. So we're going to talk about one of the signs or symbols for the tribe of Joseph is the wheat sheaf. And we get where they get this from is actually not from Genesis 49, but Genesis 37, verse 7. This is the dream that Joseph had. The dream of the sheaves. And I'll let my brother read it.
For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field. And lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words.
So here we go. This is a prophecy that God gave to Joseph. Joseph had an actual full-on vision that was showing him what was going to happen. So this was actually symbolic of what was exactly going to happen. And the brothers actually figured it out. They're saying, you're going to rule over us? Well, what happened was Joseph was made second in command only to the Pharaoh of Egypt. And what happened was there was a great famine in the land, and the major and most important food would have been wheat, because that was the main staple of the time in the Middle East. Wheat was the main staple, and Egypt was the same. Egypt was a known place for grain, even in the Roman Empire days. So Egypt was known for that. And obviously the Canaanites would have known that as well. And the land of Canaan wasn't really known so much for growing wheat, actually. It was actually fairly dry, and it wasn't the best for it to begin with. So what happened was there was a famine. And what happened was his other brothers all ended up coming to Egypt, and they were under Joseph because Joseph was second in command only to the Pharaoh. So that was the first first aspect of that prophecy being fulfilled right there. But then there's another dual of fulfillment later on when the tribe of Ephraim, which we'll see, became the nation of Great Britain. It said that there's another prophecy about the tribe of Joseph that one would be named. It would be great. The name would be great, and there's great in the name, Great Britain. Britain means covenant people, British, or land of covenant people, Britain. And that's very interesting as well. And it's really important to keep that in mind when we're talking about the tribe of Ephraim. So this is why we have the sign of the wheat sheaf for the tribe of Joseph, is because of this dream and this prophecy. And so there was the British monarch and the UK, the United Kingdom, and the Commonwealth of Nations, which again was prophesied in Genesis. So they had power and influence over all the other Israelite tribes, and they had the largest empire and the most land holdings over the world. And it said they would possess the gates of their enemies. So between Ephraim and Manasseh, which we'll see, Manasseh is actually America. So between England or UK, they're in the Commonwealth, and America, they basically had control of all four corners of the earth, having control of all the gateways to their enemies, which was prophesied as well. So this is actually a very important prophecy, and it also shows you why there's a sign of the wheat sheaf for Joseph. So I'm going to continue. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 40, 41. This is where it talks about the origin of Ephraim and Manasseh was they were born in Egypt, in the land of Egypt. So we'll go there. which is interesting as well. So we'll go there. And while he's going to Genesis chapter 40 and 41 with talking about Ephraim and Manasseh being born, it's an interesting thing because in England, the capital of England and the capital of America, they have huge Egyptian monuments. And this is basically shows that there were groups of people who understood the Egyptian connection with Ephraim and Manasseh, England and America. And that's why they have in the Washington Monument is the obelisk of On, and why they have Cleopatra's Needle in London along the Thames River. So this is not a coincidence. It really shows this understanding, and a lot of people did understand some of this knowledge before. And now people are coming back to this knowledge once more as the Lord approaches and the Messiah's coming approaches.
Yeah.
So we'll go to Genesis 40.
It's actually chapter 41.
Sorry, chapter 41.
Verse 51 is where I'm going to read from. Genesis 41:51. And, actually, I'll start in verse 50. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For God said, He hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim. For God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt was ended.
Okay, so here we go. Here's some other ideas about tribe of Manasseh and Ephraim. And this is what we're talking about. And this is, again, this goes into the prophecy of Genesis 49, that Ephraim and Manasseh would be fruitful. And so Ephraim's name has this connotation of fruitfulness. And the other one is this idea of royalty, of this kind of aristocracy, kind of aristocratic kind of idea, and also the idea of fruitfulness. And Manasseh means forget, it means sort of forgetting. And so a problem that happened to be with the tribes and the tribe of Joseph is that we had these tribes, these people had a tendency to forget who they were and what God and His blessing, and they tended to forget. And so that's an interesting point here. So even the very names of how they were named has significance. Every Hebrew name had a meaning, and they were given at birth. And this is a very interesting point. And so we know that their origins were in Egypt. And it says that out of Egypt I've called my son, which was Yeshua. Even Yeshua, Jesus, spent some time in Egypt. This is interesting. So, Egypt, the Egyptian connection is important here. And Egypt can be as like a sign of the world. So Ephraim and Manasseh were born from the world, but they became as to be the most fruitful branch of Israel, of the tribes of Israel. So that's important to discuss. And that's why we're going to go next to Genesis chapter 49. This is another prophecy about the tribe of Ephraim. And we're going to go there. And we're going to go to verse, let's see. I have a verse, I should say. Actually, we're going to, I'm sorry about that. We should go to Genesis 48, actually. 9 to 14. Genesis 48, 9 to 14.
Yes, these are the prophecies that Jacob, Israel prophesied over Manasseh and Ephraim before he died. And it's important that we read them. Now let's start in verse 9, chapter 48, Genesis. And Jesus said unto his father, There are my sons, which God hath given me in this place. And he said, bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. Israel said unto Joseph, I have not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath shown me also thy seed. Israel brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim to his right hand, toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh to his left hand, toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, and God which fed me all my life long unto this day, and the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, in the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac. Let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw the father had laid his hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. And he shall become a people, and also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, and they shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, behold, I die, but God shall be with you and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. So here they had gotten the full blessing put upon them.
They got the birthright. He said, I'm naming my name upon Ephraim and Manasseh. So they got the primary birthright, and not Reuben. Reuben should have gotten it because he was the firstborn son, but that's how it usually goes, but that's not how it went. And we see that with Jacob as well. It should have been Esau, but he sold his birthright and to Jacob, and Jacob also means supplanter, or that connotation, and that's how that name comes about. But also, that's what happened there. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're the firstborn son, you automatically get the birthright. So again, this happened again. Manasseh was the firstborn, but he said that Ephraim would be greater, and that he would be a multitude of nations. So this is speaking about the future of Tribe of Ephraim, which is England being a commonwealth, having a commonwealth of nations under it. So that's what it would have made them greater. But it said that Manasseh would be a great nation, which is which obvious that America became a very great nation, very powerful, great nation as well. But it said that Ephraim would have a multitude of nations. America does not have a multitude of nations or a commonwealth, but England does, and that's why England fits the bill of Ephraim. And we'll see there's more reason for it very shortly here. We'll explain that as well. And another important point was talking again about the fruitfulness, about having a multitude. And so there we go again. We're talking about the fruitfulness. It was touched on that prophecy of the sheaves, Genesis 37, but now we see it again in Genesis chapter 48. So they would have the most numbers. Ephraim and Manasseh would be the most numerous in number of anyone. And that's what it's making reference here. And like the crossing of the hands is actually one of the signs used for the tribe of Manasseh. And as you can see, there's flags that have a cross like this. Okay, there's two that come up very quickly, come to my mind. the Confederacy flag of the southern states, which was America, which was showing again Manasseh, and then the other one was actually the flag of Scotland. It has a cross, the St. Andrew's cross, and that's not coincidence. And there was people from the tribe of Manasseh, sizable amount of members from the tribe of Manasseh that actually ended up in Scotland, and a lot of them also ended up obviously in America. So that's a little side note, but I have to explain that because we're talking about where Israel crosses arms. That's where that comes from. That's where that symbol comes from. That cross symbol comes from. So I wanted to explain that origin there.
But also this cross symbol also appears in Britain's flag as well. Because obviously they're the other person that was involved in this prophecy. So it is actually in the British flag as well.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's in the Union Jack. The Union Jack has this. It has the old English one with the red cross, and then it has the white background, and then it has the red, white, and blue. Blue being the royalty. So that's why we have all these. The Union Jack means Union of Jacob. And so that's now we see that fulfillment of that prophecy that we're talking about in Genesis chapter 37 with the sheaves, and that Joseph would rule over all the other brothers. And here we go again. This is it coming up again. And so we'll continue talking more about some of these prophecies in the tribe of Ephraim. So I want to talk about some of the symbols now. So one of the symbols that we're going to talk about again was the sheaf. And now specifically with Ephraim, Ephraim took certain symbols on. One of them was the unicorn, which is a horse with a horn that comes out, a single horn that comes out of its head. And one of the other signs of Ephraim is also I'm just forgetting.
The bull.
Here. The bull, thank you. And one of the nicknames for Great Britain or England was John Bull. And so one of the signs of the tribe of Joseph was the bull. I can explain where that comes from shortly. It's in a prophecy. And that's one of the signs, but that's one of the symbols that the tribe of Ephraim takes on is the bull. And Manasseh takes more on the sheaf symbol and the crossing arm symbol. Manasseh takes those. And Ephraim takes on the bull aspect of Joseph, the tribe of Joseph. And another symbol of the tribe of Ephraim is the unicorn, as I said. And there's a crown a lot of times on it, and that's talking about this prophecy in Genesis. I believe it's Genesis chapter 49, and so we need to go there.
Yes, it's actually in verse 22.
Yes.
Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands are made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From whence is the shepherd and the stone of Israel? Stone of Israel, very important to remember too. Also, this prophecy involved the stone of Israel. Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee? And by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren.
So yeah, there's actually quite a bit here to unpack. Just this verse here, Genesis 49 aspect. It's very important. We have to go to Isaiah 49 as well to explain some more. But this one's really descriptive here. Talks about it going over the wall. That there's another thing talking about as like a bull, how it pushes it pushes everything in its path. A bull is a sign of strength and virility. And also it says that there would be blessings on the land and the sea and in the womb. So in other words, again, we were talking about it'll be fruitful bow. So there'll be great in numbers. And also they would spread across the whole entire world. That's what I'm talking about. The vines, very clear. They were all in four corners of the earth through the commonwealth of nations. They were spread across the whole world. So they would be blessed in the sea. So they would possess resources in the sea and possess a lot of the sea, in their tribe, and they would have the blessings from the resources from the land as well. So this is very, very important to understand. And then it talks about the crown, and the crown is talking about the British royalty, where they were the multitude of nations, and they ruled with power over a huge portion of the earth. So this is where that crown is.
And it also makes mention of the stone of Israel. This is actually speaking of the stone of destiny, which was actually Jacob's pillow, the rock that Jacob slept on when he had the dream of the ladder going up to heaven and down, with angels descending and ascending. So this stone of destiny was also part of the prophecy as mentioned here. It's where we could track, and this actual stone of Israel, as it mentions here, proves that God honors his promises to Ephraim, where that crown, that rulership, did actually get passed down to Ephraim.
Yeah, so that's very important to say. I'm going to leave this video here because it's I think it's enough to think about. I'm going to continue on in Isaiah 49, the next for our next talk. And we'll continue talking about the tribe of Ephraim.
Yes.
So again, I'm not saying that all of the tribe of Ephraim is in America or England, or specifically in England. There's members of the tribe of Ephraim everywhere. So all four corners of the earth, because we were talking about it being so fruitful. So
yes,
that's an important point.
And this spreading over the wall is actually showing that it was going to back up another prophecy about possessing these desolate heritages. That's what spreading over the wall is, because the wall was all the limitations and the continents that where they began on, but they went over that and spread out. So it's actually also backs up the other prophecies where it was prophesied they would have desolate heritages.
Right, and those desolate heritages became the part of the Commonwealth of Nations, Canada, Australia, which is Sinim, the Southland in the Bible, and so that's what it was considered. They knew there was supposed to be a southern land called Sinim, and then there was also, so they had stuff in the north, Canada, in the south, Australia and New Zealand, and they had stuff in the east. They had parts like Hong Kong and other places, Singapore, other holdings in the east, and then they had holdings in the far west, which was America, and other places in the Caribbean, and little portions in South America. So they had places everywhere in the world. So that's an important point to make, and we'll leave it there. God bless.
God bless.